Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for once again joining me for tea time. Today we have a little bit of fireside. That smokiness, you know, I love it. I love it. It's afternoon here. Smokiness is pretty good. Pretty good. So I hope you're joining me with your cup of tea, maybe a cup of coffee, maybe something harder, as I always say, depends on what part of the planet you're on. Here it is afternoon, so maybe something harder is appropriate. Today's going to be an interesting one. Today's going to be a breakdown of one of the Starlink Ethernet adapters. I call them the dongle. A lot of people give me crap about calling it a dongle, but it is a damn dongle, isn't it? So we've been having problems with those adapters. When I say we, I'm talking about you and I. I already sent one back and got another one in, and a bunch of other people said, you know, we're having problems with our Ethernet and we don't know why. And I tell them, listen, just go and take a look at that adapter, and if that adapter is not working properly, that's probably what's going on. You can also check to see if your adapter is not working just simply by checking your Wi-Fi. If your Wi-Fi is working, yet all of your Ethernet is not, chances are that adapter has gone bad. Of course, it could be the router and whatnot, but most of the time it is the adapters. And I think they're defective. I think there's a defective batch out there, but I'll get into that by the end of this video. What we want to do today is do a breakdown. Take apart one of these things and see what the hell makes it tick. Well, luckily, a friend of the show, his name is Sean, he ended up sending one of these in. Well, let me give you a little bit of a backstory first. He reached out to us and said, you know, my original dongle is dead. And he explained why. Basically, a large thunderstorm rolled through and everything was fine. His Starlink is on a UPS, on a backup, on a battery backup, which is how everyone should have their Starlink. That includes you. If you don't have your Starlink on a battery backup, you really should. Trust me, you don't want any type of problems and then have to send it back and forth and be without internet for who knows how long. Put the damn thing on a battery backup. They're cheap. Matter of fact, I found a really, really good one, tiny one that I use. Matter of fact, I'll put a link in the description below. It's just small and it does just enough that it needs to do. So many people, they put these huge battery backups that would just last days. You don't need that. You need for just spikes or any type of blackouts for a short period of time, maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, that's all that you need. He ended up having this outage and the power was out. When the power came back up, Starlink wasn't working. Well, half of it wasn't working. The Wi-Fi was working fine, whereas his Ethernet wasn't. And he ended up watching one of my videos and I talked about me having the same exact problem. He said, well, maybe that's the problem. He checked it and that's exactly what it was. He ended up contacting Starlink and they sent him out another unit. So now he has two. Now this unit was working for X number of weeks and then another big thunderstorm came through. And what do you think happened? Wi-Fi is working, Ethernet is not, dongle blew up again, and that's the end of it. This time he contacted Starlink and Starlink said, listen, send us your router and send us back that dongle because we want to see what the heck is going on. Every time there's a storm, he ends up with this dongle going dead. So after all was said and done, he ended up getting a new router and a new Ethernet dongle, and he has not had a problem since. So all is well. Well, he asked me, he said, listen, you want me to send over the first one, the first dongle, and maybe you can do a breakdown? Well, I said, sure, Sean. And look what's here. That's exactly what happened. He sent over this dongle, and this is not working after the storm. So what we're going to do is we're going to try breaking this down. I brought a bunch of screwdrivers and maybe some luck. We're going to try tearing this thing apart to see what exactly has gone amiss, what has gone awry in here. Because there's a lot of you that are having this exact same problem. And I've speculated that these things are just simply defective. And I showed in a previous video, maybe I'll put a link over here, where mine was kind of going in and out. It was working and then not working. It was just a pain. It was really quite bad. If you're new to the channel and you don't know, only Generation 2 Starlinks require this dongle to be able to have an Ethernet out of it. If you don't have this dongle, it costs $20. Well, you only have Wi-Fi, and that is it. I personally think it's stupid, but that's just what they did. So if you have a generation 1, you wouldn't need this anyways. So this video is probably moot. If you're going to get a Starlink today, you're going to get a generation 2. Don't forget, when you purchase your Starlink, get one of these two. It's 20 bucks. It's well worth it. And later on, you're going to say, why didn't I buy it at the time? And now I have to wait 2 months to get this damn thing. Buy it, 20 bucks, it's worth it. So what Starlink has done is basically took a page out of the playbook of Apple and created these dongles, right? Or Ethernet adapter. I call it a dongle. It's like the dongleification of society these days. Apple started it with all the dongle this and dongle that, and they just removed all the ports out of their computers, out of everything, and then you have to have all these damn dongles. I think it's stupid, but I get it. They look at it as like, oh, well, we don't have to put it in it if people aren't going to use it. And if they use it, we'll sell them a dongle. So we get more money. Anyways, that's what this is all about. The dongleification of everything. We are donglified. Donglify? Dongle? Dongleification? So on the back of this, we can see here is the Ethernet port. This is what we're looking for. You see that? That's the Ethernet port. This right here is their proprietary cable that goes into the router. On the back side of this, you have the proprietary connector. This connector right here goes to the dish, and it's a PoE connector, which is a power over Ethernet. Now, some people do not like these connectors because they are proprietary, but I kind of like them because they are waterproof. You see this like jacket around here? It almost looks like an accordion of rubber. Well, this goes into the unit and it really seals it well. And on the back side, it's the same kind of thing. The cable looks just like this one, and obviously you can fit this right in there. Do you see how that works? This is not the right cable for that. The cable that goes into here is the one that goes to the dish. I call my dish Mr. Bevel, just in case you want to know. Anyways, we're going to break this down and see what exactly makes this tick. I do like this cable because once again, it is waterproof, but if you have a generation 1, instead of having these proprietary cables, you end up having just a simple Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 8 cable, and that is it. That's what connects your dish to your router. So if something goes bad, it's really easy to replace. Whereas if this goes bad, now you have to order this proprietary cable from Starlink. So there's always a good and bad to everything, right? So anyways, let's get into this and see if we can crack this open. I don't know where we're going to crack it open, but it looks like it's sealed here from the back. So if I use some of these flatheads, maybe I can get in there. This might not be pretty, but if we can get in, then we can see what's going on with it.
1 hour later.
All right, let's see if we can get a screwdriver in there now. What they probably have done is put a couple of glue tabs in here and maybe a couple more around. That's what I'm going to guess, but we'll see when we get in here. There should be all around this outside some glue tabs. Oh, I feel it. There we go, right down that edge. We're getting there, people. Look at that. Well, there you go. Glue tabs here, and then glue all the way around. You see that, guys? Sometimes you just need a little power tool to get in there. Something like that. There's not a lot to this at all. Let me get a pen so I can kind of point this out to you guys. If we look in here, we can see all the little ICs and the wires. Wait a second, guys. Wait a second. Do you see that right there? Do you see that? I hope this focuses on this. It says dongle. GWB dongle version 1.1. Get the hell out of here. So all you guys that have been giving me crap all of this time for calling it a dongle, it's a damn dongle. It actually says inside it's a dongle. Anyways, well, every once in a while I'm right. Doesn't happen very often. So basically how this works is you have power from your router and data that comes through the cable and comes right into this circuit board. And now you can see that there's like tiny little wires. Let me get up close. You see these tiny little wires? These tiny little wires are the data wires, whereas these larger wires is the power that's going through this unit and then out here to Dishy, or as I call him, Mr. Bevel. These little wires go into these diodes, and these diodes are voltage suppression diodes. Remember, this unit goes all the way up to, I think, 150 to 180 watts. It can push all that power to the dish in case it needs to melt snow off it. And it does it automatically, which is kind of cool if you think about it. After that voltage is reduced, then what it does is it passes it through the Ethernet magnetics, and that basically improves the EMI. If you don't know, EMI is electromagnetic interference, and let's call it, how about in a photographic term, SNR, right? It makes your signal to noise ratio better. That's what it will end up doing. So you end up with a better or a lower noise profile. All right. So your data is cleaner. All right. So it goes to that Ethernet magnetics to do it. Now, what that does provide is it gives you the ability to send that data for short distances extremely cleanly. But it also then allows you to push the data even further without adding more and more noise. So right now, you can buy proprietary cables from Starlink that are about 150 feet long. Now, I would have to say the reason why Starlink isn't offering a cable longer than 150 feet is probably just to err on the side of caution, because once you start pushing it past that, you probably get a little bit more interference, and at probably 200, 250 feet, you're going to need a little bit more noise suppression, let's call it, internal to the unit itself. So we'll see what ends up happening. I would venture to say we will start seeing a 200 to 250 foot run if there's enough people that request it. We'll see. Maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. Refer back to this video to see if I'm right, maybe in 6 months. Anyways, there's not a lot going on here. Now, when I look at this, and we can see that up close, you see that, guys? Let me see. I don't see any burn marks, but what I do see on this cable here, you see this cable? There is a split on this cable here, and it looks a little bit kind of whack. I don't know. This does not look fantastic, this cable right here. It almost looks like it kind of got hit by something. You see that right there? You can see the cable kind of pushing through right there. I don't see any ICs blown or any darkness on the circuit board, so that's probably not an issue. Now, the reason why this actually went south is really not very much so apparent. Remember, what he said was the dish was still getting power and he was able to use it through Wi-Fi. If the dish wasn't getting power, that means that these wires right here would not be pushing power to the dish, so he wouldn't be getting data back. The data was coming back to the router, but the data was not getting pushed through the Ethernet, okay? And this happened twice to him. So once with one storm and then again with another storm. So we know that it doesn't have anything to do with the actual power getting to the unit, number one. We also know that it doesn't have to do with the data coming from the dish into the router, which would come through here. That's also not an issue. It's back here once again with the RJ45. I'm going to say there's either two things going on. All right. Number one, I think that Starlink has a bad batch of these RJ45s. Now, why do I say that? I'm glad you asked. In my last video that I did, I talked about this extensively, and I took a cable and stuck it into my unit, and there was no signal at all. I wiggled it around a little bit, and all of a sudden, the yellow light came on my switch. The yellow light would represent 100 base T. So it was running at 100 base T instead of 1000 base T or gigabit. Then I wiggled it around a little bit more and the light on the switch went green. So now it's working 100%. I wiggled it some more and it went off. And once again, you can watch that video, or maybe I'll play some while I'm speaking here so you can see it. But what this means to me is that the actual Ethernet connector here is bad. There's something wrong with these connectors. There's small pins in here. If you've never seen what these look like, if you opened it up, there's tiny pins. And where the wires from your Cat 5, Cat 6, Cat 7, Cat 8 cable goes into it, those pins make connection. Well, if these pins get loose or somehow it's not made properly, you end up losing one wire, let's say, out of all of them. Now, that wire could be a very important wire or it could be a not so important wire. But by losing one wire, you might go from 1,000 base T to 100 base T or 100 base T to 10 base T or whatnot based on those wires and which one goes bad. Now, there could be multiple going bad and now all of a sudden the thing doesn't work at all, and that's what we were seeing. Now, he was saying that this happened every time there was a thunderstorm, right, guys? There was a thunderstorm, then 30 minutes later, this thing wasn't working. Wi-Fi was working, but no Ethernet. He got a new one. The exact same thing. A big thunderstorm rolls through, and now once again, this thing is bad, and he has to send it back. Well, I'm thinking maybe option number 2 is maybe these units are vulnerable to static electricity, static charge. Now, Starlink does say that these things are NEC or National Electronic Code Requirements approved, right? Where it does include the necessity for lightning protection built into this. So if this does have lightning protection, it should have some type of static dissipation means also, but maybe it doesn't. Or maybe these RJ45 connectors don't, and they're vulnerable to static discharge. So if there's a big lightning storm that happens and there's a lot of static in the air, now if it flows through this unit itself and then whacks this connector, well, maybe there's pins going bad and that's what's happening. Maybe that's what happened to mine. Also, it's a possibility. So number 1, either these things are bad right from the factory or a defective batch that came into them, which is a possibility, or possibly they are all defective, so to speak, and they are vulnerable to static discharge or a lot of static dissipation through the unit, which makes them pop. So the only thing that I can say that kind of says no to that is that currently he has a unit that's been running now for quite some time where they gave him a new router and they gave him a new one of these dongles, and he hasn't had a problem since. And there has been a lot of electrical storms. So does this mean that they know what the problem is and now they have corrected it, and now the new ones that are coming out have an alternative to this specific Ethernet port? Or maybe the internals to this have changed also to somehow dissipate that static charge. That's a possibility. Either which way, this is a problem. And this problem needs to be corrected by them so that they don't have to continuously send new ones out. Just so you know, this says it's version 1.1, the one that I just popped open here. I don't know if there's a 1.2 out there, but I would guess there probably is because they know that there's an issue here. There's a couple of things that I want to remind you guys. Number 1, make sure that your Starlink is on a UPS, some type of uninterrupted power supplies, a battery backup. So in case of a brownout or a blackout or some kind of surge, you're not going to have to worry about your router getting slammed. All right, we don't want that to happen because it'll take you a long time for you to switch out this thing, and it's just a headache. Just put it on a UPS and be done with it. Once again, I'll put a link to one that I use. It's really tiny and it's just perfect. It runs this for probably, I would say almost a day, okay, for a long period of time, and it's not massive. So check that out. The other thing is, if you're having a problem with your Ethernet, and your Ethernet is running slow, all right? Remember what I told you before. I wiggled this around and we went from no service at all to 100 base T, wiggled it some more, and then went to 1,000 base T or gigabit just by wiggling the wire. Check your dongle out. Check your dongle. Yeah, check your dongle. See if that is the case. Wiggle your Ethernet cable in there and see if your light is changing. from green to yellow to nothing, because that might be an issue with you also. Check that out. A lot of people are saying, oh, I have slow service. I don't know what the story is. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's slower than other times. We know that Starlink in general has been slower over the last couple of months. So this is not going to fix it. But if you're having a problem with this could be a major, major fix for you, especially if your internet through them has been doing well, and then all of a sudden you have a problem where everything is running slow. It could be your dongle. Another way to test this is to go into your Starlink application and then look through your settings and then slide over the bar that says to split your 2.4 and your 5 gigahertz band. The reason behind that is once you split it, you want to connect to your 5.0 band. That's going to be your fastest band, and you want to do it very close to the router itself. Then do some speed tests from that 5.0 band, right? Through Wi-Fi, and then test through Ethernet. If your Ethernet is slower than your Wi-Fi 5, your Ethernet's broken. Okay? That's it. Simple as that. Remember, this is gigabit. Your gigabit should be faster than your Wi-Fi 5. So bear that in mind. Hopefully this is helpful. If it has been even a little bit remotely helpful, please give this video a thumbs up. If you want to say thank you by clicking the little thank you button down there, I would appreciate that too. It's not necessary, but that would be cool. You can also become a member of the channel. That would be awesome. If you have not, as of yet, subscribed to the channel, subscribe. If you haven't checked out any of my other Starlink videos, go to my channel and then go to the playlist. Find the Starlink playlist, and you're going to find about 50 to 60 videos I've done just on Starlink. A whole bunch of helpful how-tos, reviews, commentary, tips, tricks, all sorts of things. And if you haven't given this video a thumbs up, why the hell not? I just took a damn Dremel and ground this thing up for you guys. Click this button over here so when I go live or when a new video comes out, you'll be notified of it immediately. And finally, head over to my website, JCristina.com, where you can find all the photography tools I've invented for you and me over the years, and hopefully there's something there that you might like. And if there is, please pick it up and support me and my family. That's it, guys. I'm out of here for yet another vlog. Many blessings to you and your family. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you in the next one. Love you all.